Good morning, folks. A little slow on the uptake this morning. However, that is to be expected because it's early. But hey, we need to talk for a few minutes this morning because, you know, I understand that money in politics is a problem. It's been a problem for a long time. So let me just give you a little bit about the origin there. It's always been there, one way or another, but it really amped up in 2010 uh, when the Supreme Court made the decision on corporate personhood. And again, I say to you, you can thank your friends in the GOP for that, because that was John Roberts' conservative court that made that ruling, which Ruth Bader Ginsburg later called the worst Supreme Court decision in the history of the court. So let me preface all of this. Do I believe that money needs to come out of politics? I absolutely do. You know, we flirted with this for years. We had a McCain bill that, was a bipartisan bill that failed. And it's always the GOP that gets in the way of any of this happening. So in order for you to take money out of politics, the GOP has to cooperate. I think it's pretty safe to say they're not going to cooperate with anything that looks like that. You know, we always continually hear the bullshit about George Soros. And yes, he does give money to the Democrats, as do several other groups of people. But that money is being used to advance the cause of people's rights. You know, George Soros gave a lot of money to the women around the world to help advance the cause of women's rights, in the Middle East and elsewhere. He gave money to the Women's March here in the United States. There's no shortage of billionaires on the right, however, who are here strictly to usurp people's rights and to install Christian nationalism. And we're going to talk about those people right now, because you need to understand this. This is not the time to be discussing any of this. This is a red herring, this discussion. Okay, it needs to be tabled, put on a back burner until we get through the midterms. I will tell you right now, if the GOP is returned to power, right now, all bets are off. There is not going to be any change relative to money in politics, because the GOP is taking money hand over fist from a lot of people. And we're going to look at them for a few minutes right now. Let's start right here. How a secretive billionaire handed his fortune to the architect of the right-wing takeover of the courts. And this has been across all levels of the courts, my friends. This is not just the Supreme Court, but this gentleman, Barry Seid, S-E-I-D, funded a new group run by the Federalist Society and a gentleman named Leonard Leo, who is the man behind Trump's Supreme Court choices that were empowered to overturn Roe v. Wade. This man has given, the money that he gave this group, $1.6 billion to the Federalist Society, one of the most hideous groups in America, by the way. And this story was actually broken by the New York Times, but ProPublica, I have to tell you right now, is one of the most spectacular news organizations in the country. If you want to get in depth about anything, this is where you go. You people need to look at this, okay? He is the man, Leonard Leo. He's a conservative Catholic. He's helped select judges that have been nominated to the Supreme Court, and he's directed multi-million-dollar media campaigns to confirm them. The question is whether any of this should be happening on this level, where people's rights are going to be overturned. Okay, it's one thing to give your vast wealth to the advance of people's rights. It's quite another thing to do something like this. He's not the only guy. We have Peter Thiel right here, who actually helped to build social media, was once on Facebook's board, who has now taken a hard right, and he is now full on MAGA, and he is funding the Arizona Republican Party's anti-democracy experiment with Kari Lake, but mostly with a gentleman named Blake Masters, who is running against Mark Kelly. He has also given a ton of money to J.D. Vance. Both of these candidates, all of these candidates, are hard right-wing people who believe that democracy and freedom cannot exist simultaneously. Let that sink in, okay? So Peter Thiel, he's another one, another mega millionaire, giving plenty of money to the right wing to take away your rights. It's as simple as that. Let's not dance around it. Let the media call the shit that they want to call, whatever pretty way they want to phrase it, whatever code word they want to use. We're just going to tell you exactly what this is, okay? And then we have Michael Flynn, who was on a Christian Nationalist roadshow, all right? And he is also being funded by multimillionaires. By the way, the head of Overstock is one of them. He has given $50 million to take a trip around the nation, selling America as a Christian nation and saying that there's no room for anything but Christian nationalism here. You know, let's not dance around any of this. Do I think there's a problem with money in politics? I do. But if you think that I believe that the Democrats should be running on empty while these guys run around the nation using this vast wealth to overturn people's rights, I don't. I don't, because I know one thing about the American people. The American people, for all of their whining and sniveling about capitalism, partake of the capitalist system every single day. They are willing participants. And I know the mind of the American consumer. And when you're running an election, that's exactly what you're going after. You're going after how much can you get your name in front of the American public to get them to vote. Americans respond to advertising. They absolutely do. Or they wouldn't be spending, you know, or honest to God, our supplements would not be the billion-dollar business, the billions of dollars, bringing in billions of dollars of money as it is right now, because that's all advertising, folks. It has nothing to do with scientific fact. All right. Nobody can prove that any of these supplements do anything, with the exception of maybe 5 or 6. And this comes from the scientific community. Melatonin may work. People take turmeric every day because it helps inflammation, but there's no scientific evidence that proves any of that. All there is historical evidence that it was used in ancient cultures for that shit. Okay. The American people love capitalism. They don't want to give up their shit to end capitalism either. So don't let them kid you on that front. But what I'm telling you here right now is, yes, the only way to take money out of politics as it stands right now is for the Supreme Court to overturn that 2010 decision. And that is not going to happen with a 6-3 ultra-conservative supermajority. Not, okay? Wake up, folks. You know what? It isn't just the Democrats taking money from the billionaires. That's a crock of shit. The right wing right now has built an entire cottage industry on the big lie that was funded by billionaires. Several of them I have explained today. There will be references to these people in this video. You ought to start reading this shit. And I will talk to you all later.